talking about C-PTSD, how it leads to a meltdown in our lives, and how C-PTSD is not a disorder. C-PTSD, it happens through events in early childhood generally, where we've been mistreated, either verbal abuse, sexual abuse, and violence, emotional abuse or spiritual abuse. And what happens is we get to a point where we're later in our lives, we get to a meltdown point because we go through a period of time where what we've done is that we've been disassociating, and often it's not on purpose. It's just that life works out that way, that we just, we come out of our childhood home, we get on with it. We've got to move through life and make money for ourselves or look after ourselves. And we get involved in relationships that don't work out. And we realize at some point that we have unresolved issues and we don't know what they are. And many of us can think it's just anxiety, but anxiety does not just come out of nowhere. It's generally complex PTSD related. We've all got imprints from early childhood that have damaged us somewhat, all of us, but some of us had good enough parenting and some of us had tragic parenting. And we each know for each of us how that works out for us. We know what's going on for us. So what we have now is that we've got also we have meltdown, we have anxiety, we have flashbacks. If we don't know what flashbacks are, then we don't know what we're dealing with. So a flashback is that you might be, in a room with people or walking down the street, and you might have see something or smell something or hear something, and certain things will send us into flashback mode. And the flashbacks put us into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. And then we can have our inner critic that will step in and tell us that there's something wrong with us, that we're stupid, and that then we get into this state of procrastination where we can't get on with our lives and do the normal things that we want to do. And that will play out as, this will play out in flashback mode. So it will either be that we'll fight, or we'll flight, which means we'll want to run away from a situation, or we'll freeze and we're not able to do anything, or we'll fawn, we'll become extra compliant with other people and not really be living our own lives. So it's very important to understand the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response in procrastination and not being able to get on with life. Below this video, you're going to see Pete Walker, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. And it's a book, Thriving. It's a book that's free on Audible, Amazon USA, and it's free on Kindle UK. And that is a map that can pull you out, begin to pull you out of your C-PTSD reactions. And Pete Walker does say that we've got to remember that healing is not all or nothing, but it's learning to manage ourselves and learning what our triggers are and learning how we look after ourselves. One of the biggest things we can do when we're in imminent situations of dealing with really hard stuff, and we may need somebody to help us with this, if we're really stuck in freeze mode and we're not able to do what we need to do to normalize our lives, we need to sit down with somebody and ask ourselves, even with a notepad and a pen, what is the problem and what does the solution look like? So what is the problem and what does a solution look like? Now, I'm not talking about dealing with C-PTSD in that way, because that's complex. And that's why I'm suggesting the book, that you get the book, C-PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. But what I do suggest, that if you've got an imminent problem, like something that's in your face, that needs to be dealt with, and you're stuck in freeze mode, and there may be some depression around that or whatever else is going on. There are a lot of people in anxiety in the world right now who have not got C-PTSD, trying to make ends meet and trying to sort their lives out. So what is the problem and what does the solution look like? I'm going to read something about needing people, because sometimes we're going to need people, and it's very difficult for people that have had complex or have complex PTSD to acknowledge that it's okay to need people. So what we do is we might go to spiritual groups on Facebook or groups, and we're not really telling people what our problems are. And sometimes it's not safe to tell people. Or you might go on spiritual, into spiritual groups, and you'll be told, if you tell them what your problem is, you'll be told to just let it go, release it, surrender it to God, or some higher power, or divine, or whatever. And those things, whatever, those things don't help with C-PTSD, and they don't help with practical real life problems that we need to solve. you know, like, how am I going to pay my bills this month? You know, how much sleep am I getting? You know, do I need to sort out any health issues? What are my living circumstances like, and stuff like that. And when we do need help, a lot of people with CPTSD are have been shamed by childhood abuse into not being needy and not asking for help. This means that we've got many people that have CPTSD that have a lot of shame around asking people for help. And there are some good groups on Facebook that you can look at to see what that problem, you know, how that problem works for other people. Like, I've got a women's group, a ladies group for anxiety and PTSD. And that means that, you know, there's a group of women, and if push comes to shove, people can say, hey, I need help. So we all need a few people in our lives that are gonna be there for us and are gonna help us through very hard times. So something I wrote yesterday, I posted it on my Facebook page, and I'm gonna read it. I think it's quite lovely, and a lot of people I'm not saying a lot of people liked this, but it resonated. That's what I mean with people when I posted it. So what I wrote was, feel no shame in needing people. We are on this earth for a short period of time, and there will be few that truly resonate with us along the way. People will come and people will go. There will be good days, sad days, and hardships. There will be losses that you may have to go through on your own, and there will be others you will help through their losses. We cannot gauge what we will or won't have in life, be it health, money, or resources. We think we know, and we don't know. And we don't know when we're going to be vulnerable either. With billions of us, sometimes we will reach out for help, and help will not be there in the form that we need it. Some appear to have so what I'm saying is, some people appear, particularly on social media, to have their lives resolved as if they have landed on their feet. And some of us have had a life full of deep pain. And I see that my own loss and abandonment in childhood has given me the edge of being there for others, even when I can't be there for myself. So this is really important for us to take on board. And it's important for me to understand this about myself, that sometimes I will be helping others when I'm not being there for myself. So I have to balance that out. I have to gauge, you know, am I helping myself? Like, it's all very well helping others, but we have to know when we need help as well. Some of us are gifts to others, and some of us are not so. Like, there are some people that are not kind-hearted and loving, and there are people that are. So we have to make sure that we're being, you know, responsible to our inner child, and making sure that we're choosing people that are there for us. And if they can't be, you know, understanding why, that there's proper communication going on in our relationships or friendships and intimacies. So anyway, we can go figure, as life seems pretty chaotic, and other times it seems okay somehow for many of us. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to ask for your needs to be met. This is really important, that we understand that there's going to be times in our life, like I'm going through something at the moment, and I'm having to ask for help, and I'm having to ask for my needs to be met. One thing is for sure, that, you know, and I'm saying this in what I wrote, that in my own heart, I can say that I'm 100% there for others, but the reality is we can't be there exactly for what other people may need. You know, like, sometimes people may need something from us and we're not able to help them in the way that they need, in which case what we can do is that we can look at the resources that are available, that we know about, to enable, you know, to help others. And that can be with information, and it can be, you know, it can be a chat on the phone, it can be a book that you could suggest that somebody might help somebody, or it could be a question that you could ask somebody a good question, you know, to help them evolve their problem and to help them rise. So one of the questions that I said just a little while ago was, what is the problem and what does a solution look like? So, you know, if somebody was coming to me, and Jordan Peterson says this, if he's working with people in therapy, what he does is he says, what is the problem and what does the solution look like? And that may seem like a very hard question sometimes, because when we're in overwhelm, it's not just one thing that's going to be the problem. But when we're out of overwhelm, because we're not in overwhelm constantly, when we're out of it and we're sitting with a friend and we say, okay, look, I've got this problem, and then you can go through the solutions with them. But this will mean that you've got to be upfront with one another and make sure that you're, you know, telling the truth about what the problem is, and then look at the resolution of that problem. We've all got our own cross to bear, even the people that have had full nurturing. So we live in a world where some have not had any nurturing childhood, some have been overly nurtured, and some, but we've all been given a cross to bear, regardless of whatever we think. The other important thing, I think that, you know, and I know this to be true, that no one is our savior. So no one is your savior, and we are not another's savior, because when we begin to think that we are a savior, we're sort of bigging ourselves up, so to speak. And also when we think somebody else is our savior, the danger is that we're putting somebody on a pedestal and we're expecting them to fix us. And we've got to sort of put in our own work as well. Also, we all have, and the reason for this is that we all have sweetness inwardly, all of us, you know, really, we all have sweetness in us, and we all have our gremlins. We need to be straight and kind and loving. And when we can't be, you know, sometimes when we're in flashback mode and we might slip up, then we can let another know our reasons that, you know, why we're having a moment. So when I know I'm having a moment, what I do when I go into flashback, I can't really hear other people when I'm in flashback mode. So what I do, if I'm speaking to a friend, I will say, I'm in flashback mode right now. So I'm not my best form. And that allows the other person to meet your needs. If you don't tell people what's going on inside you, then it means that relationships will become frayed and, you know, very difficult. I think, you know, it's important to know that regardless of all I've been through in my life, which was, you know, many years of abuse as a child, that I can stand tall and proud, and I do rise. Like, we rise every day, hey? And also that we have to know that you can do the same. Like, we can rise through our problems, and that know our own inner beauty, even when it's not seen. We need to know our own inner beauty, and even when we don't feel beautiful, we have to own and know our own inner beauty. And we have to know our courage, even when we can't seem to muster any. That know that we're just going through a phase where we don't feel courageous, but the courage is inside of us when we can't muster any. And know your strength, that even when all is stripped back from us, when everything's taken away from us, that when everything's removed, that we're still powerful inside, that we have an inner power in the depths of us that can transcend all of our problems, that we do have that. And we do need to know that there is no shame in needing other people to help us when we need help. So the next thing I'm going to do, I was talking about the C-PTSD book, which contains the 14 steps, 14 inner critic attacks, and then the 13 steps for managing flashbacks are below this video as well. So what I'm going to do, because of these 14 steps are below, and we're talking about when we procrastinate and we get really stuck in life and we can't move forward, that one of the ones that I wanted to point out more than any of them is, let me see. So I'll go through the list, actually. This will make it easier. So number one, you know, we've got to watch out for perfectionism, because if we think we need to be perfect in order to carry something out, we're setting ourselves up for, you know, failure. Number two is, it's quite extensive, this list, but you can find the link below and print off a copy. So when we think that it's all or none, the black and white thinking is going to hold us up. So we need to get out of black and white thinking, meaning I have to have everything done. You know, I have to have, you know, $1,000 in the bank for me to be okay. I have to have, you know, this particular thing in order for my life to be okay. We've got to know it's not all or nothing. Life is always flowing. So as long as we've got our basic needs met, then we begin to build on that. But if we're not having our basic needs met, we need to resolve those issues. It's really important. We need to, number three, which he says here in the 14 steps for the 14 common inner critic attacks, which will affect how we procrastinate, is self-hate, self-disgust, and toxic shame. We need to release that. So we need to work on our inner critic to get rid of any self-hatred, self-disgust, and any toxic shame. And we need to stop micromanagement, which is worrying, obsessing, looping, and also over futurizing. If we can begin to deal with what we're dealing with in the moment, then we're not going to go into this perfectionism thing. It's like, what, you know, this imminent problem that's in front of me, what do I need to do now? It's like, how do I deal with this issue right now? What's the next step in this issue? And if you can't do it on your own, get a friend to, you know, help mentor you or to give you encouragement, because you're going to need it sometimes. You're not going to be able to do things when you've got C-PTSD. It's really difficult sometimes. I found as well, going into therapy, I was told that it would be very destabilizing. And to be honest with you, it has been destabilizing to me, not in a long-term, you know, terrible way, but short-term, I feel destabilized, which means that I'm not as stable in, you know, being able to do the normal things I want to do, because I'm focusing on looking at the trauma to overcome that, so that my life in the future is going to be much better. Number 5 is, you know, unfair devaluing comparisons. So if you're going to be unfair on yourself and say, well, I'm not this enough or I'm not that enough, and you're going to compare yourself to other people, stop it. That we're incomparable. Each soul is on a unique journey. We cannot compare ourselves to anybody in reality. It's good if we're looking for a role model and we want to, you know, sort of look at a role model. And, you know, there's a few women that I adore, you know, that are very strong, powerful women. Like one of them is Nina Simone. Another one is Tina Turner. I look at those women who've been through hardships in their lives and, you know, and see how they've been very powerful women in life. So you can choose a role model, but you're not comparing yourself to that role model, if that makes sense. We need to obliterate all feelings of guilt. Guilt has been taught to us through the church and consensus thinking. And it's also, you know, guilt is useful. There is healthy guilt. Like if we're going to really be hurtful towards somebody, or we're going to, you know, steal somebody's money or do something like that, then guilt clearly is very useful. We need a sort of healthy amount of guilt and shame. But, you know, we have to look at natural law is there are certain things we don't feel guilty for. And through religion and spirituality, we're made to feel guilt for things that really are not natural law. That there are things I would say, I don't like the word should, but we should not be feeling guilty about certain things. I'll give you another example. If you've been heavily abused by your family, for instance, I went through sexual abuse. So, you know, I'm going to feel guilty that I'm not forgiving of the person who sexually abused me for 13 years. Well, you know, I'm going to hold myself up to a high standard. You know, we don't, and that's the other thing, you know, thinking that if we don't forgive, that we're guilty of something. That's a lot of BS that's, you know, played out in spirituality and in religion. And really that whole idea serves people that, you know, it works, forgiveness works in some cases, but in other cases it's an impossibility, and we have to know that. So if we have any guilt around that, we can drop it. Shoulding ourselves, that's the word I don't like using for people, but so, you know, substitute that word with another word. I want to. So I should do my paperwork. I want to do my paperwork. I should go to the gym. I want to go to the gym for 2 sessions a week. Any should has to stop. We've got to get to the point of we want to, you know, I want to do that because then it's going to lead to that. And then I'm going to have more fun with that. Number 8 is being overproductivity, workaholism, and busyholism. So we need to slow down and we need to be gentle on ourselves. And we don't need to get everything done all at once. We can do things in sections. And again, you might need somebody to oversee that and help you. We want to get rid of harsh judgments and of self and others. And we also, that's number 9. Number 10, drasticizing, catastrophizing, and hypochondricizing, meaning that we're going to be really hard on ourselves and we're not, you know, again, thinking the worst of the worst is going to happen. Generally, if we tell people what we need and that we ask for help, we're going to get some help. It may not be from the people we actually want help from, but there is help out there regardless. You know, I know I can put my hand up and say there are 5 people who are on my team who help me, not my team, but, you know, in my life who are helping me right now very actively. We need to get rid of negative focus, so we can renounce over noticing and looking at the small details. You know, like I'm not, you know, I haven't put my lipstick on the right way, or my hair's out of place, or something like that. Or, you know, we need to get rid of negative over focusing on what we think is wrong with us, because generally, not generally, we are souls and we're unique. And we wouldn't bash a flower, you know, and say, look at that flower, it's so ugly. You know, we wouldn't do that. Even if it's a weed, we appreciate weeds as well. So we've got to look at ourselves and take away our negative focus and begin to look at the beauty. We've got to take away time urgency and know that we're not in danger. But there are some things that need to be dealt with pretty in a quick way. And those things are the things that we need to focus on, top of our list of whatever our personal problems are, whether it be health, financial and home matters, whatever's going on. And we need to disable performance anxiety. So this, for instance, you know, a year ago, I was really, you know, I felt really shy to come on social media or do my videos because I was anxious. But now, and in case I said one word wrong or got it wrong, now I'm not so bothered. It's like I'm human. So if I'm going to say a word wrong or I'm not going to say it the way I meant to say it, I can just keep talking and change it. Be flexible, being flexible in my performance, you know, not expecting myself to be absolutely perfect. So we can reduce procrastination by reminding ourselves that we will not accept unfair criticism or perfectionistic expectations from anyone, and that's including ourselves. And then we've got number 14, he says, perseverating about being attacked. So, you know, unless there are clear signs of danger, I will thought stop my projection of past bully critics onto others. So, you know, it's really knowing that the world is generally a safe place and that not everybody's horrible and there are good people out there, but we do need a healthy sense of trusting our gut instinct and protecting ourselves from things that may be problematic from us or that don't work for us. We're going to go through different points in our lives as we go. So that's it. If you want the book, the 14 inner critic attacks are below in this video, 13 steps for managing flashbacks, and then also the book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. And I'm going to leave it there today, and I'll be back over the weekend with some more stuff. And whoever's been watching, thank you for watching. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel or pass it on to somebody that might need help with C-PTSD or astrology, because I also look at evolutionary astrology and I look at people's charts and to look at any trauma and stuff like that to help them evolve, you know, and understand the symbolism of a birth chart. And what's interesting about that, Carl Gustav Jung, who was a psychoanalysis, worked with Freud. He was 20 years younger than Freud, and they worked together. And Carl Gustav Jung he looked at over 500 astrology charts in his time, helping people understand their own psyche through the symbolism of astrology. So there you go. That's it for today. I'm leaving it there. Catch you later. Thank you for watching.